What's up, everybody? We are back for another episode of Moving Out, the podcast, with my favorite guest, Justin Berry from Kansas City, Missouri. And Justin is going to tell us everything we need to know about it. So take it away, Justin.
So I'm a Kansas City native, born, raised. Don't know much more than Kansas City. So lucky you, I'm going to be the best tour guide, I believe. So I've been in the real estate industry right about 20 years. Started off as a real estate appraiser where I covered all 5 counties, or major 5 counties. I did the outlying ones as well of the city. So we're a city that's split by Missouri and Kansas. There's the Johnson County side. That's very popular. That's where most of the business in the city is, where most of the major companies are located, which is oddly on the opposite side of the city from our airport. So I live on the airport side on the Northland, and it's a little more blue collar, a little more, and there's a lot of a lot of those are going to be splits where, one person's a blue collar worker and the wife might be working out in Johnson County. So our city's set up for trucking, really is what it is. It's a trucking hub originally, after the river, railroads, river, trucking. So we have great highways to get anywhere. You can cover this whole city in 40 minutes.
Oh, nice.
So I can cover, 5 counties and be anywhere, within 30 to 40 minutes. So it makes it really interesting when it comes to, picking the neighborhood you want to live in. You can work across the entire city. That's only a 40-minute commute, which for most people in this country, 40-minute commute doesn't move you very far on a map. But here, we're able to cover a lot of areas. So in order to be a great agent in this town, you have to know a lot about a lot of areas, or you're kind of sunk.
Nice. So you say getting around within 40 minutes. So I can assume that if you move there, traffic's on the better side.
Yeah, I mean, we'll complain about it because it's all relative, of course. But we have major highways that cut right through the center, and then a large loop that goes around the edge. So there's always a way of avoiding traffic. Of course, at 4 o'clock, there's always going to be some bumper to bumper, but it's nothing like going to other major cities.
Being on Long Island, and growing up here, and of course being so close to Manhattan and the rest of the state of New York, which is like actually the state of New York. Long Islanders will never admit that, like, we are all of New York, and anything that's above it is not really part of us. But to get off of Long Island is an adventure in itself. So I always find it amazing because you got to get off of Long Island, and then you got to get out of New York State, right? So it's a process to get out of the state. And then I do my research, right? So I'm checking out your area and stuff, and I'm saying to myself, like, I would love to have a place like Ward Parkway, right? Where you're just driving along, like minding your business, and all of a sudden you just went from Missouri to Kansas in about like 2 seconds, right? Like the state line's just in the middle of the highway. And we don't have that here, like on Long Island. Like our major highway, the Long Island Expressway, it runs from Manhattan to Montauk. It's the entire length, and you still don't get off of Long Island when you reach the end of it. You still have to get through one of the boroughs, or cross a bridge, or battle through Staten Island, just to get into New Jersey, or Connecticut, or any of our neighboring states in the tri-borough area. It's so hard to get out of Long Island. And I think that's why many of us who practice real estate on Long Island, in such a small place with 31,000 real estate agents on this tiny little island, but most of us can't conceive traveling 40 minutes to a county that's 5 counties away from me. You see, I only have 2 counties, Suffolk and Nassau County, here on Long Island. We have Queens County too, but to get from Suffolk County to Queens County would probably take you a better part of an hour and a half. So to hear that you can crush 5 counties in about 40 minutes is dream to my ears when it comes to driving.
That's great.
So what would you say the average price point? You were saying about blue collar to white collar over in the other part of the town. What are the jobs mainly made up of there?
Yeah, so we have they're starting to call us the Silicon Prairie. So there's a lot of tech jobs coming to the area. We were the first ones to have Google Fiber. In the whole country. So there was a big push about 10 years ago for that. We've got Garmin, Black & Veatch. There's lots of medical technology companies here, lots of insurance. We have a Ford and a Chevy plant here in town. So a lot of when I talk blue collar, a lot of that has to do with being centered around those factories. Um, and then there's tons of warehouse, um, tons of railroad related. So all those parts that come to the factories, for instance, there's all sorts of manufacturing for, seat belts and seat foam and all that for the cars that are made here. So, there's definitely a trickle down around that. Um, and then, of course, just like everywhere else, there's so many remote workers. We're having a lot of Kansas City's definitely put themselves on the map, winning the World Series. It's put some, and the Chiefs doing so well has brought a lot of people to town to visit. Whenever COVID, came about and people could start working remotely, this became, and I believe this was actually I forget who called it, but this was the number one place to work remotely. A few months ago, I saw it in a major magazine. I can't remember which one it was, but it is true. There's a big trend for remote workers to come here because we got the high-speed internet and cost of living is so much cheaper. So the average here, by and large, is probably in the 325 to 350 price point. On
Wow.
the low end, I mean, it's hard to find something under 150. It can be done, but you better know how to swing a hammer. You better know how to make up for that equity. And on the high end, we still have, a luxury home is, probably 1 to 1.5 million. Of course, they go, the sky's the limit. There's still $15 million properties here, but they're not.
Still America after all.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. The part that I love, my favorite question, if you've watched this before, is always you tying right into it with cost of living, price of homes and stuff like that. What are the average property taxes on these houses that we're talking about? You buy a house for 325, let's just say a straight ranch, 3 beds, 2 baths, average home, nothing crazy. What are you going to pay in property taxes per year?
Yes. So the counties all range quite a bit. Wyandotte County is going to be the most expensive. I've seen $350,000 homes with $8,000 in taxes. But when you go to like the higher priced markets like Johnson County or Platte County or Clay County, you get more for your money there, and the costs are less. So let's say a $400,000 property in Clay County is probably going to be $4,500 in taxes. So,
wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
So you have to really watch that. If you want to keep apples to apples, you might see a low price on one side of a border, but the property taxes, make your payment about the same.
Yeah, listen, when you say 8,000, that's what some people here on Long Island are already paying, and I know that people watching the show are looking to get out and save some money. So, but arguably, they're also our average taxes are more like 12,000 on that $400,000 house. Is more or less where it usually ends up being. So, to hear that you could even get somewhere with $8,000 in taxes is nice. But if you can get down into that $4,500 range, obviously, I mean that's everyone's golden ticket. Because if you're going to retire off Long Island, you want to be able to take that pension or your Social Security, right, and be able to live off of it.
Sure.
That's awesome. So characteristics of homes, is there anything unique that you're only going to find in your area in Kansas City? Like things that you've been in real estate long enough, you've seen other houses?
Yeah. So you're going to have lots and lots of choices. There's, tons of micro markets. We have, like when you're talking about Ward Parkway, that's, that was definitely the development of the city area. So that's going to be, those are $4 or $5 million they're built like government buildings. But those are tanks. Near there is going to be a lot of Tudor development from the 20s, that kind of the roaring 20s, the teens. You're going to see like Brookside. So if that's a real hot market, close to the state line. So somebody working in Johnson County and also downtown, it's really convenient. That's a hot market. We have a lot of post-war properties like Gladstone, where I office at. That city didn't even exist until the 50s, and it was all designed for post-war. So they slopped up a bunch of real quick homes, and the GIs moved here. So those are kind of great for first-time home buyers, and they're bringing lots of parks in, lots of development for small little breweries and that type of stuff that's going to be around that. Get out into the outskirts. There's lots and lots of 2 and 3 acre tract properties. So if you want a little bit of land, or you can have a lot of land if you want to have a 20-minute commute, you really get a lot of choices and still be within a 20 or 30-minute commute to work. I'd say most people probably commute 15 minutes, but 20 or 30 minutes is not uncommon to have the right property for yourself.
That's awesome. So some people obviously, and I don't know why you do this. Me personally, I would be looking to leave most of the things on Long Island with the traffic. But obviously, everyone gets their comforts, right? You like to know that you're going to move somewhere that's got your local Starbucks. A lot of Target shoppers here in the office, right? You're going to move and get your Target and stuff like that. So you have big box stores and things, Costco, things like that, all accessible there,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yep.
Oh, great. And what about one thing I read was barbecue is big where you are. So obviously you're not going to Fridays on a Friday night for some ribs. So let's talk about the nightlife. What are the options for people? They got local restaurants and bars. What do they got going?
So 20 years ago, if you went to our downtown, you would have seen a bunch of dilapidated warehouse, and nobody went downtown. And leading up to 2008, there was a big push to bring lofts in, just like we've seen across many cities. So our downtown has turned over from old warehouse and office space that wasn't being utilized into lofts and entertainment development. So we have what's called the Power and Light District. That was kind of the first development, and then everything's kind of built out around there. We have a Crossroads area that's a very artsy area. They're working in these West Bottoms, which again are these dilapidated areas of warehouses that haven't been used. And now they're turning those into the same thing. We're bringing in light rails. We're having, we have train, public transport, which we didn't have before outside of just some buses. Now that's going to hopefully tie into the airport and bring the Northland to the south of the river. They're wanting to bring the Royals Stadium into that same area, whereas now it kind of sets out really around nothing. It's just they took a big field in Jackson County and put stadiums there. It's lots of parking, but there's nothing near it. So when you go to a game, you go to the game and then you turn around and go home. They're wanting to bring that so where it's going to keep people downtown. So the city's really changing itself from a suburban city with warehouse and trucking in the center hub to an entertainment city where I'm starting to see a lot of my downsizers, my baby boomers downsizing. They no longer want to take care of all this land they've done. Now they don't want to mow. They want to live in a loft, and they want to be able to walk to a restaurant. And with that being said, we have all sorts of real high quality food choices where, again, before it was only barbecue. And I would say Kansas City people love barbecue, but we don't even think about it. It's normal. It's just, that's what we have. And then you'll find here that there are camps of, I love this one and I hate that one. And I love, so it's like we have, I'm sure other people have the same thing, but we have KU and we have MU, and you're either a KU fan or an MU fan, when it comes to college sports. And it's kind of the same way with barbecue. Whether it's Gates or it's Arthur Bryant's, they couldn't be more different of barbecue, and you have camps for each. So you got to be careful on who you're getting your advice from. You really just have to come here and sample it all.
Awesome. Yeah. So don't pick sides before you get down there, because it could get kind of serious.
Yeah.
You know what? I always forget to ask this question. Normally some people will touch on it, but I'm really unfamiliar. So what's the weather like there? Like what generally year round, like you get really cold winters, like a lot of snow?
All 4 seasons.
Okay.
Yeah, we have all 4 seasons. We do not have that dry heat. This is going to be a humid heat. We do get snow in the winter, but boy, every year really, really fluctuates. There's not there's just, every season it's, we seem to be surprised with some sort of change. If you watch a lot of the weather patterns, we're always right on the edge. So whenever you see this big, winter storm, we're right on the south end of it. If it's a spring, or heat wave, it seems like we're always split. So it's kind of a roll of the dice. I would say any weatherman, this is like Paris for an artist, for a weatherman to be here. And, I think we have the best of the best. But we do get all 4 seasons, which is, It's great if you like seeing the leaves turn, you like seeing a spring, you like seeing winter. You get it all.
That's awesome. Yeah, when I pulled it up on the map, I was saying to myself, I don't think I ever realized that it is like dead center in the middle of
Yep.
America,
This
right?
is the heartland. Yep.
Latitude, longitude, east to west. Like you guys are just like
Yep.
dead center when you drop the pin. I didn't realize that before looking before. So obviously you get your choice, right, on which coast you'd like to travel to, right? From where you are, it's probably an equal
Absolutely.
distance flight to get to North
Yep.
Carolina. It is to California. You're probably looking at the same thing.
Yep.
You mentioned the airport, major airport that's easy enough to fly out internationally if you guys want to go anywhere on vacation, things
Sure.
like that. Okay. That's good. So
they're building a brand new airport. So we used to have multiple terminals. It was really awesome. You pulled right up in front of the airport, and you could walk straight into your gate. There was no main gate, but with all the post 9/11 security, it's really made that airport inefficient. So now they're doing a single terminal, and that'll bring a bunch of development as they'll be able to bring in conventions and so forth around that airport.
that's awesome. That's really cool. So what the buying process obviously here on Long Island is a little different. We are an attorney state, have to have an attorney in order to officiate contracts. Do they need an attorney if they're going to buy a house with you?
Nope. We handle all that, and we use a title company closer to do all the closing.
Fantastic. Typical closing costs on a property in your area, what would they run about typically on a, let's say, $400,000 house? What should buyers budget for closing costs?
Right about $4,000.
Wow. See, another thing that a lot of people are surprised to hear about here in New York is that we're forced, it's New York State law for banking. They have to escrow 6 months worth of property taxes, 1 year worth of homeowners insurance, plus their title fees and everything like that. So it's not uncommon for when we're budgeting for what the closing costs to be about 5% of the purchase price. So about $20,000 on a $400,000 house plus the down payment. Let's just say 3.5%, 15,000, give or take, it costs about $35,000 to buy a house on Long Island.
Yeah. So this is going to be 3 months they'll hold back in mortgage, 3 months in property tax, or 1 month in mortgage. I'm sorry, 3 months in property tax, and 3 months of your insurance. Now, insurance here, I don't know what it is there, but insurance here I find surprisingly affordable. Most of our homes, probably $1,400 a year for property insurance.
Yeah, that's about what we're paying, when you package it with your auto and your other things like that. So that's about on par. What about any other additional expenses? Obviously, when we did the Miami with Katerina, she was quick to point out hurricane insurance. Any kind of weather related insurances that you guys are required to hold?
Nope, there's nothing else here. There was one time an earthquake that happened in the Boot Hill of Missouri, way down south, and it was that earthquake they taught us in school that made the Mississippi run backwards. So there are people that carry earthquake insurance. However, I've never felt an earthquake in 20, 40 years of me living here. The one thing you have to budget for that other cities don't is this is a driving city. So public transport is not it's not feasible for most people. It doesn't run to most areas. It kind of runs down the gut, but not everywhere else. So having a car, you're going to put miles on a car. You're going to put tires on a car. You're going to be putting brakes on cars. Most people are probably putting 20,000 miles a year on their vehicle. When you look at other cities, they're not driving nearly as much. This is definitely, again, it was a trucking hub. It's designed around highways. In order to make 40-minute commutes, you're definitely driving a car.
Yeah, for sure. So so on the inspection process, is there anything, typically here again on Long Island, we don't have many concerns of like radon or anything like that. Anything specific to your area that they should be testing for if you're going to tell buyers coming out there, watch out?
Yep. So radon is, I've heard rumor that the highest radon reading ever read was in Olathe, Kansas, right in Johnson County here. And it was like 40 or something. We check for radon on most of our properties, and every property is going to show some amount of radon. As long the EPA says if it's below 4.0 UFs, then it is it's safe. So mitigation's a common thing where we pump that radon out from underneath the house. It's really not too expensive, and it's we don't even, it's not even a thought to us. It's just something normal. Termites is another one. We have a lot of termites. So you want to make sure your properties are treated for termites and always inspected, which is just common to all of our inspections.
So again, another thing that's, it's archaic and kind of gross when people really start thinking about it. We are a cesspool using community still.
Okay.
We don't have the infrastructure to support sewage. Do people have cesspools there, or are you guys on a sewer system?
We're on a sewer system. Yeah. And unless you're out in, unless you're way out in the country, but they're still connecting a lot of people to sewers. Yeah. It's all sewer here.
Public water, obviously, right? Municipal water and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, we have very few houses here on Long Island left with well water, but they're still popping around.
Yeah, very few here.
Yeah, good. All right, awesome. So they get all the same amenities and things that they'd be moving out. They get to save some money. What are your favorite parts of living over there?
Just the ability to be able to cover so much of the area allows me to, there's different cultures even in our city. You're going to have different pockets, different types of food, and just completely different cultures. So you can hop over to one area, spend dinner there, and then hop back over to another area and have some drinks. You're not committed to one, to 3 blocks of the city, whereas a lot of cities that's the hub, for that. Now, I don't know how Long Island is, but you're in Long Island. Well, you're in Long Island, or you're in, Manhattan. You're in Manhattan, and here we get the ability to really explore. Then we have some lakes nearby as well, so you can be within, again, 15 minutes. You can be out on water. Within 15 minutes, you can be downtown, eating, overlooking the city.
Beautiful. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, Long Island is going to take you probably about 45 minutes to accomplish any of those things, but we do, we do, at least we've got some beaches. We've got some really nice dinner spots. Long Island, we just went through a village revitalization program over the last decade or so, where they started pumping a lot of funds into the villages because for the longest time, they were just neglected and no one wanted to go to them, right? The nice main streets with like all this potential in the world, and no one wanted to spend any time at them. They were really run down. They weren't kept up. There was not really good police presence or any kind of safety there. And then they started dumping this village revitalization program into it, and they started creating like live work spaces. And then they gave out grants to local artists and opened up these lofts and really just kind of revitalized it, but they changed the entire landscape of it. So this area, Patchogue by us, which was not popular when I started in real estate, and a lot of people were like, oh, it might become popular one day. It is a really nice downtown. This thing exploded. And now we find people that are moving out from the city like, yeah, I think I want to check out that Patchogue area, and we'll go to Patchogue. That's fine.
Right.
And there was another town on the water with a similar village up in Port Jeff Village, and all the business flowed to Patchogue because it was this brand new village. So that's kind of what we have as far as nightlifes go. It'll take anybody locally only about 15 or 20 minutes to reach that village. But you're right in the way that you hit that one street and that's all you get. Maybe 10 or 15 bars up and down the block. Very similar stuff as far as what you're going to get drinks and food wise. So there's not much diversity. And then unfortunately, if you're going to get in the car and try to go to your next spot, you're looking at like a half hour with traffic or whatever you want to be until you get someplace. So that is a really nice feature to have.
One other thing I'll point out, you get up there into the Northeast, when you go get a 2-top table, at a restaurant, you're rubbing elbows with the table next to you. Here, you can show up with your wife and have an entire booth to yourself. There's going to be a lot more room to spread out. That's an uncomfortable thing for me visiting the Northeast, is how compact a restaurant is, or how, I'm literally, 8 inches away from the next person's table on a 2-top. And here we have a lot more space. So it's really hard for me to get used to not having space in an area like you're from.
Yeah. And it was shocking to me when I went to Nashville for the first time and I went out in the middle of the afternoon to grab some lunch. There was like no one to my right or my left. I was like, what the hell is this? People actually respect personal space outside of New York. Like I've never experienced anywhere in my life because, in New York, we're like right in your face. Where it's almost every dinner is family style here. It's true.
That's very true.
So yeah, I think that's why New Yorkers get a bad rap. We're just all too close to each other. So the so any benefits you cover Missouri and you cover Kansas, right?
Mhm.
Obviously,
Yep.
Kansas City, I now seeing is right there on the state line. So hopping back and forth between the two. Any reasons why you might tell somebody who's moving out of the state to choose one state over the other?
Um, it, if you want, the best amenities are going to be on the Kansas side in Johnson County. That's where most of the large corporations are going to be at. So if you're, if being near the best shopping, the best restaurants is most important to you, that's going to be it. But it's also going to be a little more of a traffic grid. So that's where most of the traffic is going to be. And it's going to be, a lot less highway use and more stoplight to stoplight over there. If you want a little more space and you want to save money, probably about 15% less in average price point, you can go north of the river, which is developing, exceptionally fast as well. Kansas is almost developing. They're going so far out that they're developing at 165th way out south, whereas we count from Main. Our downtown starts at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way out north or south. So they're out into the 165th area of development, whereas in the Northland we're really still developing around 100 blocks north. So you can still be closer to the airport in the Northland. If you travel a lot, that's going to be a big one. So there's a lot of people that want to be in the Northland for a little more space and near the airport.
Okay. I mean, look, that's great information. I see here. I'm trying to follow the map as you're talking about it here. So when you say north of the river, obviously, so you'd be talking about towns like Riverside or
Yep.
Parkville or what is this? The Coves.
Yep. You see that 435 highway. That's that loop that goes around the entire city. So being near that 435, loop allows you to, again, get anywhere in the city in 40 minutes.
Oh, I see. I see. Wow, that's really cool.
So it's really highway based, whereas other cities might be landmark based or water based. This is going to be highway based.
Yeah, no, I mean, as you know, Robert Moses was an absolute maniac, and he designed most of our roadways here. So none of them actually go in a straight line anywhere.
Yeah.
It's the one joke that you can make that's true on Long Island is we do not have one road that runs straight north to south. It's
Huh.
all northeast to southwest, and then you got to make a loop around and go back. We have east to west is the Long Island Expressway. That's almost straight east to west, and then Sunrise Highway kind of runs parallel to it. But everything else is like. And most people that come here and drive here are like, this is not leisurely. There's nothing relaxing about this. I've had people say that they flew in from out of state and they landed at JFK and they rented a car with the intentions of driving to Montauk. And, I try to put that in perspective of people that not only is the traffic going to be like trying to drive from LA to San Francisco.
Right.
But the distance, the time, getting down the LIE, summertime in the Hamptons, trying to get through the very narrow gate. It turns into a 1-lane road to get out to Montauk, which most people don't realize. Everyone thinks it's this large open highway, and all of a sudden you're at the end of Long Island. It is not like that. You are making right and lefts through residential neighborhoods to get back and forth, and then finally on to another 1-lane highway. It's so time consuming for people. So, when you hear that there's accessibility like this, people could just come in, see the city, go for a nice leisurely drive, go out, get some nice barbecue food. If you're wondering about things to do, guys, I mean, I'm looking here. They got the Kansas City Zoo. More than enough things that I don't think that anybody relocating out of the state of New York wouldn't find something and some kind of comfort here over in Kansas City, Missouri. And what about the hospitality of the people there? You got friendly people there?
It's pretty friendly. Yeah. It's pretty good. It's weird sometimes to go to the Northeast where eye contact on a street is I think feels frowned upon. I feel like a cowboy whenever I go outside of the city. Howdying everybody.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And Q, when we had him on the show, We asked him what his favorite part of being from Mississippi was. He said, it's the people. He says, we're not angry. We're so friendly. We're always happy. I said, that sounds like great prospecting weather to me, man, because here in New York, finding a friendly face is it's far and few between sometimes. But I think that's why most people always have the goal to moving out. It's expensive to live here. We get the short end of the stick on the warm weather months. So it's tough. But
yeah, I looked at it. If I had, started on either coast and I was able to come retire here, to be able to take that equity. What's really fun is when I take, let's say I have a West Coast buyer and they come out here to retire. Often one of them's from the Midwest, one of the couple is, and they're coming back to retire after they've raised kids in California, and the kids come out and do this, final walkthrough, and the kids show up to see what they get for their money. And, they're surprised it's not $1.5 million, because what you get here for about 500,000 is about $1.5 million there. And, you have a lot of space and you have, real high quality builds for that. It's really interesting watching that, that impact on their kids to see what they could get. I wished I could do that, but it'd be doing the opposite for me to move somewhere else. This is probably the cheapest place in the country to live and still, I think have quality homes. One other thing to mention is we have basements here. So when you look at a house here, there's another floor below ground that's usually finished. So it's a lot more house than what it looks like from the outside. We just got back from Kentucky over the weekend, and the houses there look the same, but nobody has a basement.
Very similar, like in Florida. You'd be hard pressed to try to find a basement in Florida.
You'd have some constant sump pumps running.
We do here on Long Island too.
Yeah.
Everyone's always shocked to find out that a majority of homes on Long Island actually do have basements.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a lot of basements, a lot of oil tanks, limited natural gas hookups. Yeah. In fact, most recently we had a moratorium on new gas hookups. They were not allowing us to do any more gas hookups.
Okay.
They undid that so people can start hooking up to natural gas again. But the main thing that's holding it's going to hold Long Island back from any kind of future development and turning into nice areas like what it sounds like your area is turning into now. We could never go through that kind of revitalization in whole because we do not have the infrastructure for sewage. We don't have the room for it. We don't have the budget for it. It would be such a massive overhaul to take probably what I would say over 50% of homes, no, well over that, probably over 75% of homes on Long Island, they're all on cesspool. So it's very common to come to Suffolk County. You're going to find a house that's going to have a cesspool in it. It's probably going to be running on oil heat. We most recently, lost. Well, I guess we gained, the environmental standpoint on it, but lost the ability to bury those steel oil tanks. So they're all most of the part being brought above ground now for heating and stuff like that. But yeah, we are at a lock and standstill as far as development goes, and it makes it very hard to take spaces like we have, and I'm sure you do too. They're taking these warehouses and they're turning them into lofts and living spaces, which is great. You need the sewage in order to be able to do that. Obviously, we have so much commercial space, which just like everywhere in the world right now is going up because storefronts are just not as popular anymore with the internet being accessible and Amazon being what it is and the ability to get what you need. We have these massive commercial storefronts all on highways and things that could very easily be turned into some kind of living space / workspace, whatever you want. And they can't do it because there's no sewage treatment center to handle the waste mitigation. So when I hear that, other parts of the country are able to expand and develop and have a future, more or less, we on Long Island are going to continue to try and fit these square pegs in round holes and figure out what we can do. But it's also the other reason why we're locked into single family house status in the way that we are. Do you guys have a lot of 2-family houses there? Do you have investment properties?
Yeah, but probably 5% makeup of multifamily. Apartments, yes, but as far as duplex or row house, that's probably 5% of our market. Most of this is going to be quarter acre, eighth acre lots with houses on them, single family detached.
Awesome. And last question. Everyone's always worried about the income. Would you find that, arguably throughout the United States that the income that you can go there and generate and make is on par with cost of living? You say the cost of living
Oh
is low.
yeah,
Would you
yeah.
find that someone's looking to relocate and maybe stop gaining as many gray hairs as I'm pacing on at this point, trying to pay bills and stay afloat? What would you say?
Yeah, I'd say median income here is going to be around 75,000. Um,
And you can live on
but
that.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's going to be pretty comfortable, especially if you're a couple, and you're bringing 150 into a house. Yeah, that's very very comfortable. That's going to still afford you a couple of vacations a year, and you're going to be able to eat well. You're going to have heat. You're going to be comfortable at 75,000.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
you're saying because you were talking about the factory work and stuff like that being available down there, and you obviously work a lot of buyers. Would you say that most people, the average person making the average income down there, you're still able to help them find a home?
Oh yeah, yeah. We're not really income hasn't been too much of an issue. Of course, prices going up has caused a little bit of a pause just because it's relative. Every time there's a change and you go like, could have had this 3 months ago.
Yeah.
We're seeing a little bit of a pause there. The news, the media is definitely it's picking the fringes, and it's covering that. It talks about when the interest rates go up, but it doesn't really ever let them know that the interest rates came back down. I
Yeah.
think right now is a better time to buy than 3 months ago, but you
Yeah.
can't watch Fox News and CNN to make that
Yeah.
decision. I'd rather be buying right now than 3 months ago, though.
Yeah, 100%. And interest rates are arguably somewhere around where they were in like 2017. So everyone who's acting like they're out of control, we're seeing prices come down probably about 5% so far here locally. They've backed off just a little bit, but I don't even know if you could say that they've backed off just as much as they've stopped spinning out of control. And I think that lack of craziness has caused the dust to settle a little bit, and it's keeping prices at bay, and that number seems to be about 5% so far, so we'll see which way it goes. But yeah, I mean,
So,
guys, I go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say our first time home buyers here now. One thing that isn't talked about is what is considered to be an acceptable size home anymore. I'm sure it's relative to each city. Here, our first time home buyers are often buying 4 bedroom, 3,000 gross area homes, including basement. So it'd be like say 2,200 square foot plus some finished basement. That's going to be a typical sized home here. The 1,100 square foot smaller homes that my parents' generation would have bought as their first home. Those are often going to be the investment properties. Those are going to be rentals. So it's really interesting watching. There's the complaint that houses are more expensive, but then nobody's also saying, well, the last 20 years, what we consider to be adequate housing is doubled. So you get a lot for the money, and it definitely costs more than it did 3 months ago, but you still get a ton for the money here.
That's awesome. I think that's a great point to make, because I think you're right. I think expectations for most people, if you can align them properly, because we have a ton of people complaining to us on a daily basis that they refuse to pay $3,000 or $4,000 in rent, but they also refuse to buy a home with a mortgage payment of $2,900 unless it has a basement or a garage. Every once in a while, guys, and this goes true for anywhere in America. If you're moving out of the state, if you're going to leave New York State and you have expectations of leaving, my advice, and I'm sure Justin could back this up, is your quality of life is the reason why you usually end up moving somewhere. Yes, it's nice to have an extra room to put some stuff in, to have a little extra storage, but if sacrificing that little extra space and maybe coming in under budget so you have a little extra money so that maybe you build the space down the road or something to that nature, but again, regaining a quality of life so that every dollar you're making is not going towards just your living expenses like they do here on Long Island much of the time, I would be hard pressed to say that you shouldn't consider an area like Kansas City with everything that Justin just went over. You have options for income. You can go out and get jobs. You have plenty of job opportunities, easy transportation as far as highways go. Yeah, most people on Long Island own a car anyway, even though most of us live 15 minutes away from something that we could probably walk to. We never do. So therefore, you're not going to have a loss there. It's going to be same thing. You'll have a car. Your taxes are going to be considerably less. The overall cost of living seems like it'll be a little easier pace to keep up with, and you're going to meet nice people like Justin and his wife who will show you the town and get you some barbecue.
Yeah, it's true though. Social, if you were a new person to this city, making friends and getting involved in a social circle, I think would be an easy thing to do. Other cities, it does feel like everybody's in such a hustle bustle mentality that it's really hard to penetrate that and to break into a social circle.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So thank you so much for all this information.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And, we look forward to hearing from you again. We'll touch base with you for a market update at some point to see how things are going there and make sure that it hasn't exploded to the point where no one could afford to move there. This seems like a home run, guys. If you're looking to move out of New York and you want to pick a place that maybe is a little slower pace with a little less stress, people seem friendlier, you're definitely going to get your elbow room in the restaurants, and with competitive barbecue, who could say no? Right.
I appreciate it.
Thanks again, Justin. You're awesome. And we will talk to you again soon.
All right. Talk to you soon.
See you later.